Sometimes experience is a great teacher, and sometimes the experiences of others can also help instruct us and inform us. I want to spend today's program talking to you about running for office. But before I do, I want to give you this one little backdrop. There are some people Christian people, who really think that politics is of the devil or that this is the devil's world and we should just leave it all alone. We've discussed that on other programs, and they're fundamentally wrong. But I want to zoom in on one issue, and that is the judiciary. The judiciary in this country have done more to destroy the moral fabric and undermine Christian ethics in the public square and in law and in public policy than any branch of our government. If you consider the two critical moral issues of our day, the murder of unborn children and the militant homosexual movement that is now making incredible strides in so-called same-gender marriage, you have to recognize that this is not a history of the legislative process. This is a history of judicial tyranny. Judges from the bench making rulings, sweeping away decades, hundreds of years, centuries of law, creating law out of thin air, spitting in the face of God. And I would say that if the Christian religion is true, which it is, then it's a very strong possibility that some of these judges are under the guidance of demons. Might even be demon-possessed. I don't know, I could be going out on a limb. But when a judge or a group of judges concocts the idea that two people of the same gender could be married, or that a human being, a living, innocent little boy or little girl, could be ripped out of his or her mother's womb and their bloody remains thrown into a garbage dump, I'm just saying it's possible that that judge is influenced by some really dark forces that come from the pit of hell, okay? The day of judgment will sort it out, I'm sure of that. And some of these judges will have their very own special private room, really close to certain wicked demons in the lake of fire. But I digress. May God have mercy on them. Perhaps the worst part of that whole scenario, just to take a recent decision. If you look at Massachusetts, for example, or Vermont, those two states ended up being at the vanguard of the so-called homosexual marriage movement. The minute those decisions came down, and the minute that those judges told the legislature, you're going to create this at our order, the legislature should have turned around and impeached them. The end. The end. But the politicians that were elected by the people did not have the moral fiber, did not have the moral compass, and did not have the courage to do what their duty was. We are not a slave people. I mean, we're behaving like one. But when these judges make these ridiculous, ungodly, hell-bent decisions, it is the right, it is the duty of the people to overthrow such forms of government. I'm quoting from the Declaration of Independence. You don't even have to overthrow the government. All the elected officials have to do is impeach those judges. And the reason I want you to focus on this for a minute is because it's so critical that we have the right people in office to throw the right or the wrong judges out of office. If the people in Massachusetts who had elected their officials, if their elected officials had done their job, or the elected officials in Vermont had done their job, then the so-called homosexual marriage movement would have been just stopped in its tracks. Because other judges around the country who've been making these ridiculous rulings would have seen, oh, I'm not going there. I'm not going there. So as we talk today about running for office, I will focus again on federal politics, but I also want to focus on state politics, because if you have people in state assemblies and state senates that will uphold the Constitution of the United States, the Constitution of their state, and the laws of the United States and their state, We could rid ourselves of these godless tin pot dictators, judges, that are the ones that are destroying our country. And most of them are not elected. So let's utilize our elected officials to throw the tyrannical bums out. I'll be back with more on being a watchman on the wall and perhaps you running for office.